Quick Wear+Birth System+Multiple Children and Blessings+Shuangwen+Female leads Exquisite Beauty+Palace Dou and House Dou+Double Cleanliness+No fixed CP, World 1. A naturally cold and childless tyrant Nanyan is the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's mansion. Her fiancé AE was taken away by a concubine, and her 3 brothers accused her of selfishness and forced her to become a concubine in the palace. Unexpectedly, Nanyan was very pregnant and became the queen favored by the tyrant by giving birth, chasing sister's crematorium, World 2. Disliking regent/seizing your wife, the emperor's sleeve is broken, fake, and the regent detests women. He originally thought that the dynasty would change its surname and generation, but the unpopular empress received good news. World 3. Day and night pets of rough Han leaders, age, marriage before love, World 4. After running with the ball, he was forcibly taken and plundered by the boss, World 5. Empress. My mortal enemy gave birth to a son for me, mind reading, micro-cyberpunk, future dynasty, World 6. Princess of the Lost Country X Qingling Buddha, World 7. Charming Demon Fairy X Pure Abstinence Master. Chapter 1. A Desperate Tyrant Without Inheritance 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Scorching Sun. The respectful maids surrounded a young woman. A young woman has a delicate appearance, dressed in luxurious attire and adorned with golden and emerald pearl hairpins. She looked at Nanyan kneeling under the scorching sun, with a hint of disdain growing in her eyes, but her tone was extremely gentle, as if she was about to squeeze water out. Sister, why do you have to be like this? The Crown Prince of Prince Jing's mansion has personally come to withdraw his marriage, the reason being that he has a deep affection. Sister and he are childhood sweethearts, so we should make things better for him. At this moment, a cute baby sound came to Nanyan's mind. Birth Subsystem Xiaoqi is at your service. After binding with the birth subsystem and completing tasks, not only can you eliminate all diseases and difficulties, but you also have the opportunity to obtain endless lifespan. May I ask if the host accepts binding? Without hesitation, Nanyan replied in her mind, accept. As long as she can get rid of ALS, she can do anything. Didi. The host has bound the birth system and is now releasing a task to give birth to 7 children to Emperor Shang Yinyao, who is facing difficulties in inheriting offspring. The words have just finished. Nanyan felt a surge of swelling and pain in her brain, followed by a surge of memories flooding her like a tide. The original owner, also known as Nanyan, was the legitimate daughter of Prime Minister Gu Yuan. She was well protected by her mother, simple and kind. There is a childhood sweetheart named Su Yunqing, the crown prince of Prince Jing's mansion, who has arranged for a child to marry. The relationship between the two has always been good, but Su Yunqing suddenly withdrew yesterday, saying that he has a crush on someone. The original owner had admired Su Yunqing since childhood, so naturally he would not agree, and the Prime Minister had always wanted to send the original owner to the palace to seek power for him. She knelt here for 2 full hours, wanting her father to pity her, and then went to the Prince Jing's mansion to discuss further. The noon sun was poisonous and stuffy, and the original owner's body was already delicate. He knelt for so long and disappeared. After receiving all the plot, Nanyan said calmly, Xiaoxue, help me up. Entering the palace, as she wished. Xiaoxue looked heartbroken and breathed a sigh of relief when she saw that her young lady had finally figured it out. Miss has always been esteemed, proficient in music, chess, calligraphy and painting, and full of pursuers. It is not worth suffering such injustice for a man. Nanyan stood up straight, and the young woman's hand reached out. Nanyan glanced at her a few times, her whole body tinged with a pitiful feeling of pity. This is Gu Zhiro, the illegitimate daughter. The mother of the original owner, Shang Exquisite, was a princess who grew up next to the Empress Dowager and had a noble status. At first, Gu Yuan was just a small official, but after marrying Shang Exquisite, he was promoted to the position of Prime Minister. And Gu Jiro's mother was just a concubine brought back by Gu Yuan from the brothel. Gu Jiro was a thoughtful person who coaxed the innocent original owner around and even made the original owner say a lot of good things about Gu Jiro in front of Gu Yuan. She also took Gu Jiro with her on important occasions. Over time, Gu Jiro's treatment was no different from that of her legitimate daughter. Even though Gu Yuan favored his concubine and killed her, he intended to elevate Gu Jiro's mother to a peaceful wife. Due to the Empress Dowager's influence, he temporarily dared not act rashly. Gu Jiro's face was tense and she asked, "Sister, why don't you kneel?" Gu Nanyan hooked her lips and silently withdrew her hand. She spoke calmly, "I've figured it out. It's not worth it for a man. Although Su Yunqing has talent and a good skin, he lingers in the brothel all day long. A man who is constantly changing his ways, getting married is exactly what she wants, and her goal is the emperor." As for Su Yun's claim of belonging, it was Gu Jiro in front of him, and the two had already been hooked up. Gu Jiro's face paused and she met Gu Nanyan's direct and seductive gaze. She felt very uncomfortable for some reason. "What's wrong with this grass bun today? I've been staring at her, her eyes are really scary. Shouldn't it be discovering her relationship with the crown prince?" Gu Jiro sneered and said, "Yes, I'm very happy to see my sister like this. The crown prince doesn't want her anymore. She is the legitimate daughter of the prime minister's mansion and has more choices. For example, becoming a concubine for the current emperor is a good choice. If your sister enters the palace to become a concubine, the emperor will not harm you due to the Empress Dowager and father. If you are lucky enough to have a young prince in the future, you may even be able to ascend to become an empress. Let the crown prince regret it then. Gu Nanyan is foolish and ignorant. Apart from his superficial knowledge of music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, he is useless. How can he be worthy of the crown prince? If it weren't for Gu Nanyan, her mother and father wouldn't have been separated. She should be the legitimate daughter of the prime minister's mansion." Coaxing Gu Nanyan into the palace, she never had a chance to come out again and would not steal the favor of her father and beloved. The current emperor is cruel and ruthless, treating human life like ants, and burying corpses on the mound one after another every day. 3,000 beautiful women in the harem, the vast majority of whom died while serving the emperor in bed. Over time, no one dared to send their daughter back to the palace. Entering the palace is undoubtedly a sign of death. It would be best if Gu Nanyan died tragically on the day of his attendant's bed. Even if Gu Nanyan survived through bad luck, the emperor was already 30 years old but had no offspring. The incompetence of the emperor is something that everyone in the world knows. Only Gu Nanyan, a clumsy guy who doesn't understand current affairs, can be coaxed into believing. Lucky to have a little prince. Ha! Impossible. If Gu Nanyan gives birth to a young prince in the future, she will write Gu Jiro's name upside down. Thinking of this, Gu Jiro's proud expression in her eyes became even stronger. Gu Nanyan takes a panoramic view of everything and remains as stable as Mount Tai. "Well, I'll borrow your auspicious words." This tone seems to be the master praising the sweet-talking little servant. Gu Jiro was momentarily confused. Gu Nanyan is extremely pampered outside, but in front of her, she has always been generous and treats her like her biological sister, never speaking to her in such a lofty manner. Gu Jiro glanced at Gu Nanyan a few times, but did not see the sad expression she had anticipated, and her heart was extremely disappointed. She said bitterly to herself, "I know my sister has a deep affection for the crown prince, and it will be difficult for her to come out for a while. This is normal. If my sister wants to cry, she will cry. Don't hold it in your heart." Gu Nanyan couldn't be so calm. She must have been too sad and forgot to cry. She must have been heartbroken and wished she had hung herself in the minute. After all, Gu Nanyan once said that she couldn't imagine how to live without the crown prince. Upon hearing these words, Gu Nanyan couldn't help but laugh. Gu Jiro is quite confident in Su Yunchen, and this time she came intentionally to see how sad she was crying. It's just a pity that Gu Jiro was disappointed. Gu Jiro looked surprised and said, "Why is sister smiling?" She understands, she must be too sad, trying to cover up her sadness with a smile. Gu Nanyan's smile should be filled with tears. However, Gu Jiro looked carefully and couldn't see anything. The weather is hot, tears and sweat are mixed together, so I can't see it. Gu Jiro thought to herself like this. But the next second, she was slapped hard in the face. The first world, a naturally cold and childless tyrant, is Shuangjie. As the name suggests, the tyrant had no ideas or interest in that matter, so he never favored his consort. Chapter 2. The Desperate Tyrant Without Inheritance 2. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Gu Nanyan slightly picked his lips and said in a leisurely voice. Some people are too confident. I'm afraid it has not been a long time. I forget who gave me this beautiful dress and jade hairpin. If it wasn't for Miss I, she would still be eating white flour mantou in a remote yard. This is the truth. At least the original mother grew up in the palace and understood the importance of hierarchy and order. How could she treat a commoner like a legitimate daughter, and not give a concubine the opportunity to seduce the prime minister? I don't need you, a commoner, to talk too much about my affairs. Gu Jiro was immediately ignited with anger, feeling that Gu Nanyan had committed a madness. The two words illegitimate woman are her pain points, and she can't hear anyone say she is an illegitimate woman the most. Even though her current treatment is no different from that of her legitimate daughter, she is still not satisfied. It's all Gu Nanyan and that old woman's fault. If it weren't for them, the father and mother would be harmonizing, and Gu Jiro would be the legitimate daughter of the prime minister's mansion. She took a deep breath and said calmly, "What's the point, sister? Sister just wanted to care about you, so you said that to me. I know the crown prince is coming to divorce, and you're very angry, but why did sister vent her anger on me? So my sister hates me so much, then I'll just leave." After speaking, a crystal-clear tear slipped from the corner of her eye, and the charm that I still pity at first sight became more and more obvious. Gu Nanyan sneered without any mercy, "Get away, don't get in my way. Kneeling for a long time just now made my legs sore. I can only walk normally after a while." She originally intended to slap Gu Jiro directly. After all, Gu Jiro stole the worthless fiancé A.E. crown prince from the original owner. Glancing at a group of people rushing towards the corner, their movements were suppressed again. Gu Jiro was clearly stunned for a moment. In the past, Gu Nanyan used to love her the most. Whenever she cried, Gu Nanyan wished he could give her everything. Thinking of this, Gu Jiro cried even more sadly, tears streaming down her face. "Sorry, sister." Unconscious people thought that Gu Nanyan had bullied her. "Gu Nanyan. You're bullying Xiaoro again." 3 men with golden robes and jade crowns walked over, each with an extraordinary appearance and superior temperament. Gu Nanyan glanced at them, and these 3 were the biological brothers of the original owner's mother and compatriots. The speaker was the youngest third brother Gu Sansan, with a baby fat on his face and a youthful aura. In modern times, he can be considered a legitimate type that can attract the hearts of many young girls. He has a rather reckless and straightforward personality, and is currently a martial arts master in the general's mansion of Zhenghua. Accepting complete memory, Gu Nanyan felt that Gu Sansan was even more foolish than the original owner. Gu Jiro's few words made Gu Sansan dislike the original owner, and even Gu Sansan publicly claimed that he only recognized Gu Jiro as his sister. Ignoring one's own younger sister and taking care of a half-sister's illegitimate daughter, I don't know which day I'll be kicked into the ditch. If the original owner is simply foolish, then Gu Sansan is completely brainless stupidity. Gu Nanyan said, "If you don't speak, it's a default. Nanyan, you really disappointed us. You were so cute when you were a child, how could you become such a naughty person when you grew up? Your mother has spoiled you. This person holding an ink painting fan and dressed in white is the second brother Dou Xiaoman, with a hint of anger mixed between his eyebrows and eyes. But there was more disappointment in his eyes. It seems that Gu Nanyan has become an irrecyclable abandoned child, hating iron for not turning into steel. The Prime Minister has invested so much in you, and as a result, you are useless. It's okay if you can't repay the Prime Minister. Even the marriage of Prince Jing's mansion cannot be held. Think about your own reasons in everything, don't vent your anger on innocent people. Apart from bullying Xiao, tell me, what else can you do? Gu Nanyan resisted the urge to roll her eyes and wore a standard smile on her face. Everything in the Prime Minister's mansion is given by my mother. My mother once said that she is the only daughter of mine, unwilling to let me suffer, and it is only right to spoil me. Moreover, you have no right to accuse me. My mother has put in as much effort into you as I have. She sent you to the palace to serve as a personal guard for the emperor, and you begged the Empress Dowager to come back after only a few days. You have been lazy all day, holding poetry competitions with those so-called 4 great talents of Jiangnan. Dou Xiaoman was stabbed in the neck bone and angrily scolded with his fingers, how dare you talk to your second brother like this? Strange, in the past, he was a rebellious girl who indulged and acted unreasonably outside, but still respected him very much. Today, he speaks frankly. It seems that what Xiao said is true. Gu Nanyan deliberately pretended to be obedient in front of him. What a disgusting thing. In Gu Nanyan's plan, she will soon enter the palace and have no further communication with these 3 intellectually disabled brothers. Taking advantage of this limited time, she must vent her anger on the original owner. So, there's no need to endure anymore. At this point, the system suddenly kindly reminded. The initial point of the host is 2000, spending 100 can obtain a martial power pill, permanently increasing strength, a necessary pill for fighting. There are also beauty pill, body quenching pill, divine weapon pill, hidden beauty pill, twin child pill, dragon and phoenix child pill, 3 child pill, 4 child pill, false child pill, etc. I want the body quenching pill and the martial power pill. The original owner can even get rid of heatstroke, but his physical fitness is too poor. He needs to improve his body quenching pill. Talking to 3 big men, if one of them gets angry and suddenly rushes up to slap, it's not very good, and martial arts pills are also essential. As for other pills, purchase them when needed. Choose to take immediately with your mind. Almost instantly, she clenched her fist tightly, feeling a strong force surging within her body. This is my internal strength, I feel like there's a breeze under my feet, and I feel refreshed. Gu Nanyan gained confidence in the face of 3 burly men. Otherwise, as she spoke, she slapped the other side and didn't even have the strength to backhand. Gu Nanyan chuckled lightly and spoke in a very contemptuous tone, now I know it's my second brother. Isn't it true that there's no sister like me outside? Dou Xiaoman furrowed his brows, feeling inexplicably guilty when faced with his younger sister's questioning, but soon only anger remained. He waved his ink fan and said, it's better not to have it. After speaking, he turned his back and walked up to Gu Zhiro to comfort him. Xiao, didn't that dead girl hit you? Let my brother see if he's injured. Gu Xiaoman and Gu Sansan looked around Gu Zhiro and confirmed that there were no injuries on her face or hands. Only then did their gaze towards Gu Nanyan improve significantly. At least not looking at the eyes of eternal sinners. Gu Zhiro explained coquettishly, sister didn't bully me. It was I who made my sister angry that made her hate me so much. Gu Sansan looked very distressed and said, she is very selfish and disliked by everyone. Little Ro, don't waste your emotions with unnecessary people. What a scene of 3 siblings having a good relationship. These 2 brothers, every word and every sentence, were belittling her, and were tightly held by Gu Zhiro. Gu Nan smiled at the corner of his cigarette butt and instructed Xiaoxue, "Go, pass on a word to my mother, saying that my second brother is outside and denies my younger sister, and—" At this point, she deliberately paused for a few seconds and calmly exchanged glances with Gu Xiaoman. Moreover, the second brother has a good relationship with Gu Zhiro and intends to support his father in raising his concubine to become a concubine, making Gu Zhiro his legitimate daughter. The original mother Shang Xian once spoke harshly, saying that there would only be Gu Nanyan, the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's mansion. Who dares to disobey her orders, beat her to death, and then expel her from the Prime Minister's mansion. Chapter 3. A Desperate Tyrant Without Inheritance 3. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Xiaoxue jumped up happily and said, "Yes, miss. I don't understand what kind of enchanting soup the three young masters drank, and how they treated an impure illegitimate daughter with disdain for their mother's sister. Perhaps this is wealthy families have nothing to do when they are full. I like to cause trouble for myself when I have nothing to do. Miss, you did a great job. Just let the lady come to train the young master." Gu Xiaoman's eyes were slightly flickering, and he instinctively stopped Xiaoxue, saying, "Don't go." His mother would never beat him to death and drive him out of the mansion, but he didn't want his mother to know that he had a good relationship with Xiao's sister. My mother has repeatedly warned him to stay away from Xiao about the difference between legitimate and illegitimate. Every time his mother says that Xiao's purpose in approaching him is not simple, he really wants to refute it. Xiao is so simple and kind, but just too lonely and eager for someone to play with her. Xiaoxue timidly buried her head, as if afraid to leave. At the moment Gu Xiaoman left, Xiaoxue quickly ran away. She only listens to her young lady. Regardless of whether the young master allows it or not, whatever the young lady says, she must do it. Gu Xiaoman was speechless until his throat choked up and he couldn't speak. Indeed, if there are rebellious masters, there will be disobedient maids. Someone went to report the situation, but Gu Xiaoman dared not speak recklessly. His mother was extremely strict with him, and even though he was already in his prime, he still feared his mother's rule. Gu Zhiro saw everything in her eyes, and seeing that neither of them could affect Gu Nanyan, she felt very unhappy, but couldn't show it. Gu Nanyan won't suddenly change her temperament. She must have listened to someone and pretended. People are always foolish and won't become smarter in an instant. Gu Zhiro cleared the tears from the corners of her eyes and skillfully hooked onto the arm of the slightly older man. "Big brother, Rower hasn't seen you for a long time. The court is too busy, so don't forget to take care of yourself. I made a small purse for you to soothe your mind. Big brother, hanging it around your waist will relieve a lot of pressure. This is the real thigh." The other two brothers are immature in their minds and it's normal for them to not be able to compete with Gu Nanyan. As long as Big Brother speaks, Gu Nanyan dare not even say a word. Gu Nanyan has been paying attention to the expression of this Big Brother. Always with a gloomy expression, as if everyone owed him money. Big Brother Gu Zhe was an accompanying reader for the emperor during his reign as a prince, and can be considered a bamboo horse that grew up together since childhood. The relationship between the two is excellent, and Gu Zhe is currently serving in the court with a strong presence. Due to Gu Zhe being sent to the palace since childhood and rarely returning to the Prime Minister's mansion, the original owner had little impression of this elder brother, only remembering that he was very aggressive. Every time Gu Zhe returns to the mansion, the original owner hides far away and dare not approach and speak. On the contrary, Gu Zhiro, even if biting her teeth, had to get close, which led to Gu Zhe's preference for Gu Zhiro. Gu Nanyan affectionately shouted, "Big brother, you're back. My mother misses you every day and misses you very much. Go find your mother quickly, don't mix up the water here." Gu Zhe's eyes lit up with an unclear meaning. Not only him, but also the other two brothers and Gu Zhiro have a ghostly expression on their faces. You should know that since Gu Zhe entered the palace, his aura has become gloomy and terrifying. Gu Nanyan kept hiding far away, like a mouse seeing a cat. This time, Gu Nanyan dared to speak to Gu Zhe. Gu Zhe added an imperceptible smile between his eyebrows and said, I will go. Gu Xiaoman's fan fell to the ground and said, Gu Sanson was so shocked that he couldn't close his mouth. Mom, big brother who has always been meticulous in his laughter, is this a smile? He always thought his older brother was paralyzed. Gu Jiro was completely ignored, gritting her teeth and clenching her fists tightly. Over the years, she has done so many good things, but has not received a response from her elder brother. Gu Nanyan only said a word to Big Brother. Big Brother seems to have changed his personality. Gu Jiro's gaze towards Gu Nanyan became increasingly malicious, unable to conceal the surface. Xiaoro, what's wrong with you? Gu Xiaoman asked thoughtfully. I have never seen Xiaoro's sister show such an expression before, it feels very strange. Gu Jiro restrained her emotions and a gentle smile returned to her face. Ah, it's okay, it's so hot today. At first, I wanted to slander and bully Gu Nanyan, but unfortunately, Gu Nanyan became smarter and learned to shift the topic, even intentionally isolating her. What a despicable thing. Sister, you have delicate skin and tender flesh. Hurry up and rest in the room. Third brother will give you a fan. Second brother has brought you your favorite peach blossom pastry. Come here and try the craftsmanship of the old master. Well, eat well. Thank you, second brother and third brother. Do you want to eat, big brother? Gu Zime's heart twitched and he said, I don't like sweets. I have something to talk to Nanyan about. Everyone's gaze returned to Gu Nanyan. The marriage at Prince Jing's mansion has ended, and your father intends to send you to the palace as a concubine. What do you think? The emperor is incompetent, and changing dynasties is a matter of time. The emperor is currently under tremendous pressure and I believe he won't be able to hold on for long. He will soon be looking for a successor. My father intends to promote Li Xian, the son of a national teacher, and the two have had several private contacts, knowing the root of the matter. This sister should also make some contributions to the Prime Minister's mansion. Gu Jiro was secretly delighted. Big Brother's words are undoubtedly poking at Gu Nanyan's neck bone. Gu Nanyan will definitely have a conflict with Big Brother, and even if it's not going well, he will be angry and retaliate with anger. She only needs to watch the fire and the play from the shore. Gu Xiaoman agreed first and said, the Prime Minister's mansion has raised you so much, so it's time to make some contributions to the Prime Minister's mansion. I advise you not to be ignorant at all costs. Gu Sanson. Big Brother and second brother are right. You only know how to bully Xiaoro at home. It's better to send you to the palace and let those nannies discipline your bad temper. Gu Nanyan nodded slightly in his eyes. From the current perspective, these three brothers have completely different personalities. Big brother Gu Zhe, typical of giving a candy and then a slap, appears calm and self-disciplined on the surface, but in reality, like his father Gu Yuan, he is a very deep person in the city, only seeking benefits and not family affection in his eyes. Second brother Gu Xiaoman, a playboy type, is lazy and selfish without realizing it. He was blinded by Gu Jiro from Little Balian. Third brother Gu Sanson, with high military strength and a relatively reckless attitude, is another *** who has been deceived by Gu Jiro. These people who wanted to squeeze out her last bit of value seem to have forgotten that the Prime Minister's mansion is not only about her as a young lady, but also about her being the younger sister of their compatriots. Gu Jiro is just a concubine's illegitimate daughter. They assumed that she would definitely refuse to enter the palace. Gu Nanyan responded calmly, I am very satisfied. Not only did she enter the palace as a concubine, but she also had to give birth to 7 children to the emperor who had no heir, becoming the only concubine in the harem to have an heir. These 4 words left the 3 brothers speechless, and a series of prepared criticisms also choked them up. They suspected that Gu Nanyan had been stimulated and deliberately got angry, but upon closer inspection of Nanyan's expression, he looked very serious and didn't seem to be angry. Seeing Gu Nanyan being so obedient, Gu Zhe felt a bit strange in his heart. What do you think in your heart? Just say it directly. The shock on Gu Xiaoman's face had not yet dissipated. Yes, at least you are our sister. You want to enter the palace voluntarily, don't make it seem like we are forcing you. This time, Gu Nanyan is speechless. Isn't it forcing me? Facing Gu Zhirou's proud face, Gu Nanyan only felt unlucky. If you want me to enter the palace, I have a condition. Chapter 4. A Desperate Tyrant Without Inheritance 4. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Gu Xiao looked disdainful and said, what conditions? He knew that Gu Nanyan wouldn't easily agree, this was a big move. After glancing at Gu Xiaoman, Gu Nanyan stopped looking at him as if he had not paid any attention to him. Gu Zhirou can never become the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's mansion, and her aunt will also be expelled from the mansion, she said in a calm and unyielding tone. Gu Nanyan raised his eyes and met Gu Zhe's 4 eyes, which were focused on contemplation. His aura was no less than that of the latter. Gu Xiaoman sternly refused, no way. Gu Sansan took a step forward and said fiercely, how dare you? Compared to these two, Gu Zhe appears much more composed. The conditions in the front are acceptable, but the ones in the back. We can't make the decision, we need to discuss with our father. Gu Zhirou was proud to be protected by her 2 brothers behind her. Dad won't agree to send away his mother. As long as Gu Nanyan is sent to the palace, there is only one daughter in the Prime Minister's mansion, whether she is legitimate or illegitimate, so what? Gu Nanyan didn't miss Gu Zhirou's proud expression at the moment and calmly said. I propose this condition not to ask for your opinions, but to notify you. As for that aunt, his mother will take care of him, and his father can't take care of the backyard matters. She has already said it tactfully enough. Gu Yuan is nothing more than a phoenix man who relies on his mother to rise to power. My mother's support is the Empress Dowager. As long as the Empress Dowager is still alive, Gu Yuan won't want to lift his wife up. She proposed this condition simply to provoke Gu Zhirou and others. And my mother had long wanted to get rid of the arrogant aunt who relied on her favor, but due to the original owner, she had not taken action for a long time. Now that she's here, then this aunt and Gu Zhirou won't be able to shine. I didn't expect Gu Nanyan to be so arrogant. In a fit of anger, Gu Sansan wanted to raise his hand and slap Gu Nanyan in the face. Gu Nanyan became interested. As expected, in such a situation of tit for tat, there is a high probability that someone will break through the defense and slap, and at this point, the use of the martial arts pill will come into play. Gu Nanyan instantly reached out her hand and quickly controlled Gu Sansan's arm, easily turning her back. Gu Sansan let out a miserable scream, ah. He wanted to break free, but Gu Nanyan gradually increased his strength. Let go quickly, I'm your 3rd brother. I'm disrespectful. The screams grew louder and louder. Gu Zhirou was on the side, scared to tears, hiding in Gu Xiaoman's arms and saying, 2nd brother. Gu Xiaoman was also scared. 3rd younger brother is a martial arts teacher, and surprisingly, he was treated like this by Gu Nanyan, who has no skin power in his hands. The blood color on his face disappeared almost completely, and it was more unbelievable. Finally, it was Gu Zhe with a gloomy expression who spoke up and rescued Gu Sansan. Nanyan, stop making trouble. Gu Nanyan pursed the corner of her mouth and shook Gu Xiaoman away. Make a fuss. It's like children playing house. Well, I can't reason with these people. Gu Xiaoman stumbled twice, fell to the ground, and let out a pig-like scream. He covered his right hand and gritted his teeth in pain. Where did you get your internal strength? Gu Nanyan sneered and said, don't you always say that I love to learn a little bit, but isn't there any particularly strong one? Do you still think so now? After speaking, she looked at Gu Zhirou and then looked at her from top to bottom for a few seconds. After rolling her elegant white eyes, a contemptuous and mocking smile curved around her mouth. Like a young lady looking at a maid, noble and elegant, she turned around and left like this. These two foolish brothers, as legitimate sons, went up to serve as oxen and horses for their illegitimate daughters. Among these three, Guze is a bit smarter. Don't leave if you have the ability. Gu Sanson was hesitant in his heart, but he still pretended to chase after him. I thought someone was blocking him, but after walking 1 meter, I found that no one was looking at him at all. He silently withdrew his feet, his mouth tightly closed, his cheeks muscles tense, his face turned pale, and his whole body was puffed up. Gu Xiaoman felt helpless on his side. The person in his arms cried even more pitifully because of Gu Nanyan's contemptuous expression just now. He was busy trying to coax others and didn't have the heart to pay attention to anything else. Don't cry anymore, Gu Nanyan can just jump around at this moment. When her father sees her into the palace, she won't be able to laugh anymore. In his eyes, Gu Nanyan would only lose face with the Prime Minister's mansion, and it was not as considerate and obedient as Gu Jiro, a commoner woman. With talent, she could still add glory to the Prime Minister's mansion. Gu Zhe stared at Gu Nanyan's graceful departure, his sharp eyes narrowed. This legitimate sister finally has a brain. It's quite useful. Even so, her fate of entering the palace cannot be changed. There must always be a wealthy woman entering the palace, and the relationship between the mother and the Empress Dowager should be placed there. It is more advantageous for Nanyan to enter the palace for the Prime Minister's mansion. The Imperial Palace, inside the magnificent Daqing Palace. Wan Chen knelt down together, his heart pounding into his throat. Not far away, an old minister from the previous dynasty, who had been in power for 12 years and still had no heir at the age of 30, died in a fit of anger from hitting a pillar and splattering 3 feet of blood. The ferocious and unsettling death with wide-eyed eyes was unbearable. The courtier who was closer to him was splattered with scattered blood. He trembled and shouted, "Your Majesty, there are still no imperial heirs in the harem. If this continues, it will be a matter of time before we change our dynasty. The 4th prince who guarded the border has not returned for nearly 20 years. I heard that he gave birth to an heir in his mansion a few days ago, in order for our dynasty to continue." As soon as these words were spoken, some courtiers followed suit, but no longer dared to whisper and discuss. Emperor Shang Yinyao, who was above the throne, had a chiseled chin and a gloomy expression. His eyebrows furrowed slightly, and his imposing sharpness and coldness turned into imperial power to exert pressure, creating a tense and dull atmosphere. Understanding the temperament of this bloodthirsty tyrant, the courtiers instantly fell silent and dared not speak any more. Before this, there were several ministers who advised and either died by hitting pillars, being dragged outside and beaten to death, or being sent to dungeons. Shang Yinyao felt as if he had not heard of it, and his voice and expression were both sharp as he asked, "Who else has any objections?" The hall was completely silent. Suddenly, someone exclaimed, "The bloodthirsty emperor without heirs, my dynasty is doomed." Shang Yinyao raised his hand and without a word, the speaker was dragged down. Step back. He knew that these courtiers dared to be so reckless only because he had no offspring. He doesn't want to have children. This throne was won by him through his life among the 8 princes, possibly due to some health issues. Except for the 4th prince who guarded the border, all others died in internal conflicts between princes. The 4th prince grew up outside and could not have threatened his throne, but now. Shang Yinyao gave an order to his confidants. The 4th prince's family will be completely wiped out. He also instructed the eunuch to deliver messages. Just tell the Empress Dowager that when holding a banquet, all courtiers must bring their female relatives. Cleanliness Palace. The Empress Dowager knelt devoutly in front of the Buddha statue, holding the Buddha beads in her hands. Yao finally figured it out. Shang Yinyao has killed his concubines several times, and no longer have any courtiers willing to send his daughter to the palace. Holding a banquet is actually selecting a candidate for the concubine. In the future, if 100 flowers bloom in the harem, it will be easier to have offspring. The Empress Dowager lit sandalwood incense, looked at the Buddha statue, tapped her head 3 times, and her forehead was bleeding. No one dares to step forward and care, they all dare not. For so many years, the emperor has never had any offspring, and the Empress Dowager did so without allowing anyone to disturb during this period. The Empress Dowager's eyes were moist, and her heart was filled with bitterness. After finally supporting heir to ascend to the throne and enduring countless hardships, he thought it was a great achievement, but faced the great difficulty of inheriting offspring. The AI family is not greedy. As long as heir can obtain an heir, the AI family is willing to exchange all the remaining life for. Chapter 5. The Desperate Tyrant Without an Heir 5. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Gu Nanyan looked at herself in the mirror and pursed her lips. Do we still need to use beauty pills on this face? Exquisite facial features, slender willow eyebrows, 2 clear phoenix eyes, a pointed nose, and standard smiling lips. However, it's a bit dark and the skin condition is not very good. Perhaps it's because I have eaten too many desserts in my daily life, and my whole face is a bit swollen. The system couldn't help but remind. There are many beauties in the palace, and just this beauty is not enough to attract the emperor's attention. Beauty pills are equivalent to modern fine-tuning, with minimal and painless modifications to your face, such as whitening and delicate skin tone, slightly changing facial features, and expanding eye corners. Gu Nanyan agreed, take a beauty pill, don't take it for now. This body is a bit weak and needs to buy a shaping pill to create a seductive figure. The emperor's temper is irritable, and the Ningxiang pill has the effect of soothing the heart. With a wave of his hand, he bought everything. Opening the system backpack, 3 colorful glass-colored pills appeared inside, with 1,100 points remaining. In thought, Xiaoxue hurriedly ran in. Miss, Madam is here. The next second, Shang Xian walked in with a worried expression. She first pulled Gu Nanyan to look and then looked. What did your second brother, that bastard, not take you for? Time never fails a beauty, even if her face is wrinkled, her every move and tone of speech are all showcasing elegance and nobility. That face is also extremely beautiful, but with a touch of vicissitudes and sadness. The original owner always went against her. No matter how angry she would find something good to appease the original owner. However, the original owner was deceived by Gu Zhiro and ignored her biological mother. The eldest son cannot be seen in the palace for years, the other 2 sons and daughters are disobedient, and the husband's heart is with his concubine. In recent years, Shang Xian's heart has been tormented. Gu Nanyan shook her head and sat down with Shang Xian. She pouted with a playful and cute expression, coquettishly saying, Mother, don't worry, my second brother can't take care of me. Shang Xian's face was a bit unnatural. She had never seen her own daughter act spoiled, and she had always been cold to her before. Well, that's good. If you've been wronged, you must tell me that you're my daughter, the legitimate young lady of the Prime Minister's mansion. With me around, I won't let you suffer any injustice. Gu Nanyan's nose was sore. I envied the original owner for having a mother who treated her so well, but the original owner didn't cherish it. After a brief conversation, Gu Nanyan opened the door and said to the mountain, Mother, I want to enter the palace. Shang Xian's eyebrows and eyes added a hint of anger. Did your father come to force you again? He agreed to withdraw from your marriage to the crown prince of Prince Jing's mansion, and I knew he. Gu Nanyan comforted her back and said, All right, mother, don't get angry. My father and 3 brothers have indeed told me many times that they want me to go to the palace to contribute to the Prime Minister's mansion, but I also want to go to the palace myself. Shang Xian became even angrier and angrily rebuked, Bastard. You are not the only one in the Prime Minister's mansion. If you want to enter the palace, you are also a commoner. Yenner, don't be fooled by them. Entering the palace is a dead end. The husband and son are forcing their daughter to die, feeling both frustrated and melancholic. Mother, I am serious. I have admired the current emperor for a long time. Isn't Yenner fond of the crown prince of Prince Jing's mansion? And now that the emperor is already 30 years old and only a few years younger than your father, don't take it too hard, Yenner. Exquisite earnestly advised. Seeing that Gu Nanyan still insisted on her ideas and didn't look like she was joking, she sighed. Mother, rest assured that with the presence of the Empress Dowager, there will be nothing wrong with her daughter entering the palace. I made conditions to my brother and father when I entered the palace, not to mention that aunt as a concubine. Gu Zhiro can only be an illegitimate daughter, and the actual power is in the hands of my mother. My mother must not be kind and soft-hearted. I'm sorry, mother. I was deceived by Gu Zhiro before and lost touch with you. Now that my daughter has seen her true face, she won't be deceived again. Exquisite nodded, moved, but at the same time, there was a hint of sadness between her eyebrows and eyes. There are 3 sons, but this is the only precious daughter she has. Soon, it was the day when the emperor held a banquet. As soon as Gu Nanyan entered the main hall, a teacup shattered on the ground, followed by a roar. Exquisite, you've turned the tables. I'm the head of the family, why does it matter if I bring roar or not? Gu Yuan wanted to bring his illegitimate daughter to the palace for a banquet, but Exquisite opposed it. The two of them started a big argument, and neither of them relied on each other. Master, don't be angry. Since Madam doesn't agree, let's forget it. Roa hasn't seen much of the world and it's not good to enter the palace, afraid of losing her courtesy. The person standing next to Gu Yuan and giving him a good time was Aunt Lu, the biological mother of Gu Zhiro. A soft and weak body, if not leaning against Gu Yuan's embrace, is actually a person who is proud and favored. Gu Yuan tightly held Aunt Lu's hand, and the anger between his eyebrows and eyes dissipated slightly. Helplessly, he doted on her and said. Luer is still considerate. Shangshin is just a woman, and mine is something she cannot decide. If I want to bring Roer, I will definitely bring her along. Aunt Lu shyly lowered her head. A scene that exudes a strong affection and affection. Exquisite has long been accustomed to this scene, but she still feels sad. The person who once married recklessly, like today in front of her, pulling a prostitute out of a brothel, this feeling is like cutting blood in my heart. Mother. Gu Nanyan helped Exquisite's hand and gently patted it with comfort. If the father insists on taking his illegitimate daughter, then it's okay. Didn't the Empress Dowager ask her mother to come to her place after entering the palace and have a chat? I'll go with you. Father is inevitably a bit lonely at the banquet alone, so it's better to let the illegitimate daughter accompany him. As soon as these words were spoken, Gu Yuan's momentum noticeably weakened. Exquisite loves him, so she won't speak ill of him in front of the Empress Dowager. But it's not necessarily that Gu Nanyan is a rebellious girl. She is usually reckless and speaks without any restraint. The Empress Dowager asked you to come into the palace to chat with her. Why didn't you tell me about this beforehand, Exquisite? Gu Yuan spoke in a much gentler manner. Almost instantly changing her face, Exquisite became accustomed to it and let out a cold snort. When will I need to report my situation to you? She grew up with the Empress Dowager since childhood and has always been treated like a princess, so naturally she has a high heart. If it weren't for liking Gu Yuan, she would have stirred up the entire Prime Minister's mansion the moment Aunt Lu entered. If it weren't for the good relationship between the precious daughter and the illegitimate daughter before, she wouldn't have let Aunt Lu be so arrogant. Fortunately, now that Yenner has grown up, she no longer needs to endure. Yeah, the Empress Dowager has a good relationship with her mother. That's the Empress Dowager. You know what, father? You're just a prime minister who relies on your mother to rise to power, and you can't manage the affairs of the Empress Dowager and her mother. Gu Yuan was furious and pointed with his finger, "Rebel girl." He wished he could immediately draw out his whip and use family discipline. Reasonably tell him that now is not the time to teach Gu Nanyan a lesson. After the banquet is over, it's not too late to give it a hard lesson when you come back. Gu Nanyan seemed to realize she had said the wrong thing and quickly covered her mouth, blinking innocently. "Father, I have always been outspoken in my speech. You know that, you probably won't argue with me, right? Besides, what I'm saying is the truth. Gu Yuan has been in office for so many years, it's hard not to know the meaning behind these words. As if blatantly saying, I speak without any restraint. What can you do to me? If you dare to do anything to me, I will speak ill of you in front of the Empress Dowager." Gu Yuan's face showed surprise, only realizing that his eldest daughter, who had always been foolish and famous, had become smarter. This is not a good thing. He has a premonition that his plan will derail. Aunt Lu began to be very arrogant, and now she is also standing on the side, afraid of being provoked. Just then, the butler walked in. "Master, madam, the carriage has arrived. It will be an hour late if you don't enter the palace again." After speaking, he stood on the side with a submissive attitude and didn't dare to say a word more. Gu Yuan had a cold face, pursed his lips and remained silent. Aunt Lu beside him was sweating profusely. On this side, Shang Xian and Gu Nanyan chatted intimately. Yenner is becoming more and more intelligent. Until getting on the carriage, there was no sign of Wenjiro. Lifting the car curtain, I caught a glimpse of Aunt Lu's proud and joyful expression on her face as she listened to the maid beside her. Gu Nanyan probably guessed where Gu Jiro had gone. Chapter 6. A Desperate Tyrant Without Inheritance 6. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After entering the palace, Shang Xian originally wanted to take Gu Nanyan to the Sinang Palace to get acquainted with the Empress Dowager. Gu Nanyan refused, and as soon as he sat down, someone came to find fault. "Oh, who do I think I am? It turns out that Miss Gu, who has been divorced, still has the face to go out. If I were someone, I would have been at home for at least 3 months without the face to see anyone. TSK, how shameless. Words are full of ridicule." The person who came was Ning Kiki, the elder sister of the general's mansion. She was dressed in orange clothes, with her hands on her hips, and her face was full of pride. Her eyebrows were about to rise to the sky. In Gu Nanyan's memory, she and Ning Kiki grew up together from a young age, but they have always been rivals in love, competing openly and secretly over anything else. Gu Nanyan said in a calm tone, "Since I was young, I have arranged a marriage between adults. Since both parties do not agree, it is good for anyone to withdraw. There is a better husband waiting for me. It would be better to have Gu Jiro treat me so arrogantly than to watch the fire from across the shore." Su Siming, dressed in white, had just arrived with Wenjiro when he heard such a sentence. His brow furrowed tightly. A better husband. Everyone in the capital knows that Gu Nanyan only likes him, and if he likes him too much, how can he fall in love with others? It's just a matter of saving face between girls, let's just say it on purpose. "Brother Su, you're here. Listen, Gu Nanyan is talking crazy again. I would rather have sharp eyes and see familiar figures not far away, with a bright smile quickly hanging on my face." After seeing the woman following her figure clearly, her smile gradually disappeared. "Why did you come, still with Brother Su?" Wenjiro's face turned pale in fear from the unfriendly gaze, and she leaned closer to Su Siming, as if she was about to fall down in the next second. "Coco. She was intentionally left behind by Gu Nanyan. I accidentally met her and brought her along. Don't bully her." Ning Ko gave the two people a skeptical glance and said, Although she didn't do anything, it was as if she had bullied Gu Jiro. Trying to kill these two people is really eye-catching. Gu Nanyan's target is the emperor, but it does not hinder the viewing of the play. Sitting down to eat pastries and snacks, and nibbling on melon seeds. Is this love triangle plot exciting? Suddenly, I would rather sit next to her. Not long ago, I was still criticizing Gu Nanyan, but now I am familiar with gossip and say. Gu Zhiro looks like a little white lotus, just like my aunt. Men are just like this. Do you already know that Brother Su was hooked by that fox spirit? That's why she looks so indifferent and knows she's out of it. That's not right, this is not your usual style. You just watch a commoner snatch away your crush. A rival in love is a friend. Gu Nanyan supported his forehead. How could you hear a little bit in this tone? Hate iron doesn't turn into steel. I don't like him anymore, I have nothing to do with who he likes. Ning Ku let out a hey sound. Has the sun come out from the west? Or is the chicken but not fragrant anymore? Gu Nanyan seriously suspected that she compared Su Siming to a chicken butt. The chicken's butt smells like shit. Gu Nanyan looked across from her, and Gu Zhiro was leaning against Su Siming, shyly accepting the feeding and occasionally giving them provocative glances. Oh, flowers stuck on cow dung are so spicy. Miss, I'm almost blind. I would rather despise the Tao. Gu Nanyan's attention shifted to the emperor who held the highest position. That face is still very nice, with a pair of peach blossom eyes and excellent facial features. The facial lines are firm and masculine. The child born from his sperm must have a superior appearance. Gu Nanyan breathed a sigh of relief. Upon hearing that he was a man in his 30s, still from ancient times, she thought he had the appearance of a lewd and greasy man. After a long period of psychological preparation, she finally accepted. It's like this, then she can rest assured. She looks very irritable, and even from such a distance, she can feel the strong pressure, truly deserving of being a tyrant. A concubine who is overturned by the emperor and serves as a sleeping attendant can live until the next day if sentenced to death. On the left side of the emperor is an empty space, and the empress dowager is chatting with her mother, so she hasn't arrived yet. On the right should be the lady in charge of Feng Yin, and on the backstage is the general's mansion. She is also Ning Ku's aunt. Sword eyebrows paired with auspicious phoenix eyes, with facial features leaning towards a male appearance, and with hair pulled up high, it is a man's appearance, and dressing is no different from that of a man. No wonder there are rumors in the palace that the emperor had a broken sleeve. Su Siming stood up and bowed, saying, Your Majesty, I have a heartless request from you. The emperor watched him grow up and would still give him a small request, even if it was a reward for the child. What's up? Wei Chen and the young lady of the Prime Minister's office, Gu Zhiro, are in agreement with each other. Wei Chen wants to request a decree to grant him marriage. The emperor suddenly froze and said, If I remember correctly, you are the crown prince of the former Prince Jing's mansion. Since childhood, you have been engaged to the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's mansion. Do you want to elevate your illegitimate daughter to a fair wife? As soon as these words were spoken, a eunuch reminded him, Your Majesty, the crown prince of Prince Jing's mansion has recently divorced the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's mansion. He had no intention of taking care of the affairs of the harem and backyard, and he knew about some things later. Su Siming's eyes were gentle, and he met Gu Zhiro with deep affection, without looking at Gu Nanyan from beginning to end. Everyone looked at Gu Nanyan with subtle eyes. This legitimate young lady is really miserable. She was suppressed like this by an illegitimate woman. The emperor also looked at Gu Nanyan, but his gaze only stayed for 2 seconds. She is a beauty, but a bit dark. By comparison, that illegitimate woman is indeed much softer and whiter. It seems that Su Siming was tempted by beauty, not a smart person. The emperor waved his hand. For the sake of the reputation of Prince Jing's mansion, return to the mansion and wait. This is a promise of marriage. Su Siming was extremely excited and said, Emperor Xie, long live the emperor. Long live the emperor. The hanging heart also sank. He heard Roer say that the Empress Dowager was chatting with the Prime Minister's wife, and it would be best to propose marriage during this gap. If the Empress Dowager were here, she would not agree. For a while, many people came to congratulate Gu Yuan. The marriage with Prince Jing's mansion was a comeback, and some flattering words deeply ingrained in his heart. My heart became increasingly satisfied with Gu Zhiro, and my gaze towards Gu Nanyan became increasingly annoyed. What's the use of having a legitimate daughter snatch a man over an illegitimate daughter? Send him to the palace as soon as possible, live and die on his own, at least he won't lose face with the Prime Minister's office again. Chapter 7. A Desperate Tyrant with No Inheritance 7. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Gu Zhiro shyly leaned against Su Siming and curled her lips to look across from her. The next second, her smile stiffened a bit. Gu Nanyan and Ning Kiki chatted happily and smiled happily, as if they hadn't seen the scene of proposing marriage just now. I didn't see the expression I wanted to see, and Gu Zhiro's expression gradually cracked. Roer, what's wrong with you? Su Siming followed his gaze and saw the face he was extremely disgusted with, instantly losing all his good mood. How unlucky. At this time, Gu Nanyan had not yet taken beauty pills, her skin was a bit dark, and her appearance was not very outstanding. But from beginning to end, I never glanced at him, and that confident smile shook my eyes. Su Siming sneered. Is this Gu Nanyan's little trick of indulging in hard to get? I don't even know how many times he has played, he doesn't like this. It's estimated that Ba won't score minutes and rush up to stick to him. However, Su Siming was inexplicably flustered for some reason in his heart. Being entangled in gossip and plotting big things, Gu Nanyan finally managed to get rid of her. Arriving at the backyard, it was empty and most people were busy with the banquet arrangements. Xiaoqi, where is the emperor now? The system honestly replied, 3 meters ahead, the emperor is resting in the room on the left. He is currently not in good condition, and the wine he is drinking has been drugged with that kind of medicine. He is frantically throwing things. In theory, it can choose not to tell the host about these things. In the past, even if a host asked, it did not necessarily answer. This host looks smarter than before, and works with a high profile, not letting himself be wronged. In terms of seeking revenge on the spot, it really earns its heart. Just tell her whatever you ask. Its host, who dotes on it. As soon as I walked to the side of the house, a series of falling sounds came from inside. Your Majesty, spare your life. That wine servant has tried it before, and there is nothing unusual. Lady Shu is feeding you some snacks. The duck's voice, choking its throat, sounded as if it were a eunuch. Get out, don't let anyone in. What came next with the sound of something shattering, sounding like a table splitting apart. Gu Nanyan watched as the eunuch walked out, and as soon as he came out, he knelt down with weak legs, sweating profusely, as if he had just been wielded by a knife to speak, and escaped after death. Just as he was about to sneak in while the eunuch was arranging affairs, he saw the bright yellow figure walking out on its own and going to the next room. If you remember correctly, it seems to be the place where the Empress Dowager rested, but she is not here now, so there is no one inside. Gu Nanyan made a decisive decision and chose to take beauty pills, shaping pills, and Ningxiang pills. The tyrant has a bloodthirsty nature and is extremely cruel to women. He is not interested and needs to calm his mind. The Ningxiang pill happens to have this purpose. Combined with the effects of beauty pills and shaping pills, it can at least approach the emperor's body. Walking to the rockery stream in the yard, the clear water reflected her face. A standard classical melon seed face with fair and translucent skin, delicate and flawless facial features, noble and elegant temperament, just like an exiled beauty walking out of a book. Just a faint smile is like holding a peach blossom, enchanting all beings. The body proportions are also just right, just taking 2 simple steps is enough to make people's minds flutter. If exposed slightly, the hot and devilish figure cannot be hidden at all. This pill is really good. Gu Nanyan pretended to walk in unintentionally. The heavy panting in the inner room intensified again. The emperor peered through a white mist-like curtain, his crimson eyes fixed on the woman boldly breaking in from outside. I was stunned by the woman's slender waist, huge breasts and plump buttocks, and beautiful figure. Her graceful figure and increasingly clear face are also stunning, even more unique than all the women in the harem. Accompanied by it was a charming aroma that made his restless heart inexplicably calm down, and the impulse to kill faded a lot. After fully seeing that face, I felt a pure and ethereal aura that did not consume human fireworks, like the flowers of the mountains, which was unattainable. "Are you a fairy?" He was puzzled. The emperor, who had been drugged, calmed his restless mind with the fragrance. The effect of the medication is starting to take effect. And under the artificial ripening of Gu Nanyan, it becomes even more vigorous. His mind was a bit blurry, and his mind was also drowsy. He shook his head and lifted his eyes again. Seeing that stunning face, he felt that it was a disaster of bright and charming charm. His every move was full of charm, and his beauty was so majestic. Every style is stepping on his sexual fetish. The desire that had been dormant for 30 years was also aroused. This is the first time he, who is naturally cold, has experienced this feeling. In the past, when he saw the women serving in the dormitory, he couldn't get interested, and the more they moved around, the more he became annoyed and disgusted. He would rather help himself than touch them. Originally with a bloodthirsty personality, stepping on countless corpses to ascend the throne, there must also be women among them. So whether it's a man or a woman, it's the same with him. He values human life like nothing, and what if a concubine dies? People or things that make him feel irritable, he can kill them if he wants, and throw them away if he wants. Gradually, with the lessons of the past, those concubines no longer dared to have any ideas, and even avoided him. The tyrant's name became even more prominent, and eunuchs and maids saw him as if they had seen the Prince of Yen, trembling with fear. The courtiers in the court dare not easily oppose his proposal and only dare to offer some advice. Those who, openly and secretly, said he couldn't give birth to a prince were also dealt with directly to warn people. "Your Majesty, I don't know if you're here. I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm here." Gu Nanyan was pulled into her arms, soft and clinging, her voice sweet and sweet, even sweeter than honey soaked, with a hint of fear inside. Just now, she seemed to have been trying to arouse his interest, pretending to accidentally get it, and then instantly withdrew her hand. As soon as she got up, she was pulled down again. I hugged even tighter this time. Chapter 8. The Desperate Tyrant Without an Heir 8. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The emperor felt the lingering fragrance of a second and couldn't bear it anymore. His head was buried in her tender collarbone, and her collar was forcefully pulled open. Like hunger and thirst, tirelessly persevering. As if the knowledge in the book is about to slip away and be absorbed in a race against time. The medication has a potent effect, mixed with personal desires. Although it is the first time. But it's a matter of course. Suddenly, someone spoke outside, and the voice grew closer and closer. It seems that a group of people have entered. Gu Nanyan's throat and eyes tightened. She heard her mother Shang Xian's voice. As soon as I thought this room was the resting place of the Empress Dowager, I instantly understood. Shang Xian and the Empress Dowager were chatting in the backyard, chatting and feeling tired. They came here to rest. Gu Nanyan became nervous all over her body. Today I went out without looking at the almanac. This awkward scene, I hope they don't come in. Unfortunately, at this moment, the man leaning against her back whispered his hoarse voice in her earlobes, occasionally teasing her. Don't be nervous, they won't come in. The emperor's voice was quieter. Gu Nanyan's face turned red, and he felt that this man's physical strength was really terrifying. She rose to the system. Xiao Qi, this man has not finished for so long, and he looks like he has no experience, which is not good. The system couldn't help but remind, host, dog emperor, this is the first time. Men who have just started eating meat are like this. Please bear it. What? I can't believe it. There are so many concubines in the harem. Although many of the concubines who served as attendants have died, there are still some concubines who lived well after sleeping as attendants, such as the Shufei in charge of the phoenix seal. How could the emperor be possible? She had never had any offspring and thought it was because the emperor was not very good. This is not possible. Now it seems that the emperor is not cut off, at least he has feelings for women, otherwise he would be as energetic as if he had been beaten with chicken blood. Nanyan blushed with sweat. Your Majesty, the Empress Dowager is outside. Just separated by a wall and curtain, people outside are likely to come in at any time. Don't continue any further, it's enough. The Emperor remained silent, silently doing great things. Dog man. Nanyan appeared obedient on the surface, but cursed from the bottom of her heart. If it weren't for the fact that this man had abdominal muscles, she would have refused long after getting what she wanted. The requirement of this world is 7 offspring. Buy a 7-fold pregnancy pill and take it immediately. The system has said that the probability of having a 7th child is mostly sons, and the probability of having a daughter is extremely low. She really likes her daughter in her heart. But at present, there are not many points left. If divided into several times, the recovery pills and other points needed for postpartum recovery will be large. Complete it all in one go, and with the integration in the future, you can easily divide it into several times. During the intervals of distraction, one can also listen to all the conversations outside. Look at you, why are you so worried? It's Gu Yuan who bullied you again. Tell the AI family, you were also raised by me. When my daughter was raised, I wanted Yao heir to crown you as a princess. You insisted on marrying that poor boy. Now that he has changed his mind, he is both a concubine and an aunt who brought you in. The Empress Dowager, who had not seen Exquisite for a long time, held hands and had a lot to say. She was also worried that Exquisite would not live well after marrying into the Prime Minister's mansion. At least she was also a niece whom she doted on and grew up with, even more intimate than ordinary relatives. Auntie, I've worried you. Don't worry, I can still manage the backyard. A concubine can't make a big fuss, and the only thing I'm worried about now is the smoke. She told me that she has been pleased with the emperor for a long time and wants to enter the palace as a concubine. The emperor is naturally the best man in the world, but as you know, Aunt Yen air is pure and has no city, and entering the palace will definitely be swallowed to the point of leaving no bones. In front of outsiders, she is the introverted and steady wife of the Prime Minister's office. In front of her daughter, she is a considerate and gentle mother. Only in front of the Empress Dowager can she take off her disguise and body, and become the little girl who likes to follow behind the Empress Dowager and ask for candy. AI family remembers that Yenna rarely enters the palace and hardly meets Yaoer. The Empress Dowager naturally has confidence in her own son. Yao heir is the kind of person who is indifferent and heartless if she doesn't pay attention, and becomes a different person as soon as she becomes interested. It's just that no one has a deep understanding, so this kind of sentiment probably wouldn't arise. And, isn't Yenna fond of the crown prince of Prince Jing's mansion? Exquisite shook her head in disappointment. I guess I was fooled by my 3 rebellious sons and Gu Yuan. My son and daughter are at odds, and I can't do anything in between. This is all the work of that concubine and illegitimate daughter. I really have no other choice. The Empress Dowager was engrossed in contemplation, her old eyes showing a kind and gentle expression. It's okay, since Yenna is going to enter the palace and there is the AI family present, no one dares to touch her. As long as she is peacefully appointed as a concubine, the protection of the AI family can ensure her lifelong safety. The concubines in the harem are also in need of people. Seeing that Gu Nanyan is also a lively girl, perhaps Yao heir likes it. The Empress Dowager couldn't help feeling disappointed in her heart, and now she can only hope to find at least a few emperors who are interested in this recruitment of concubines. Otherwise, there would only be a concubine in the harem who could talk to the emperor for a few words, but the concubine's belly remained motionless. When will these days come to an end? When will she be able to hold on to her little grandson? Upon hearing this, Nanyan was somewhat moved and envied that the original owner had a mother who thought of everything for her. She doesn't understand what it feels like to be loved by her family, but now she feels warm being there. Nanyan looked up pitifully and said, "Your Majesty, which young lady is that Yen from? She pleases you. Do you also like her?" The voice was delicate and sticky, like the paws of a kitten tickling the heart. "It's like being spoiled and jealous again. The emperor's efficacy has been greatly improved, but he still has physical strength." At this moment, looking at the stunning face within reach, he was willing to immerse himself in it, and his previously fierce eyebrows and eyes were also occupied by tenderness. There is no other tyrant who kills like a horse. Only a foolish and immersed fool. The jealous words of the beauty beneath him turned into another sentence in his ear. The emperor's Adam's apple twitched and his voice hoarse as he said, "Okay, here you are, only one for you." Combined with the movements, it seems a bit crazy. Nanyan was caught off guard and said, "Dot." The man followed like a demon, with endless stamina. His red eyes tore at her earlobe and collarbone, and he murmured softly to herself. After hearing those 3 words clearly, Nanyan smiled inwardly. Chapter 9. The Desperate Tyrant Without an Heir. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The chat outside disappeared at some point. My mother returned to the banquet without seeing anyone, so she would definitely look for her everywhere. Nanyan took the painkillers and soon recovered. There was no major problem getting out of bed and walking. When she stood up, she didn't forget to curse the dog emperor in secret. There are so many concubines in the harem, and I didn't know how to practice beforehand. Their movements are so unfamiliar. But that's also good, at least the emperor is clean, which surprised her. While tidying up her clothes, Nanyan caught a glimpse of a jade pendant with a familiar pattern that she seemed to have seen before. Upon careful reflection, it seems to be a memory from the original owner's childhood. Big brother Guze also has such a jade pendant. I remember it seems to be a safety jade pendant that I went to Jingshin Temple to seek, with only this unique pattern. How could this jade pendant be with the emperor? Mom, shouldn't I? Nanyan's mood plummeted to the bottom. In a hazy moment, the emperor reached out his hand to reach the beauty, but he couldn't touch her, like the bright moonlight turning into a butterfly flapping its beautiful wings and flying away. Don't leave. She walked gently, just as she came gently, leaving only the lingering fragrance that made people feel relaxed and happy. Deeply trapped in it, unable to extricate oneself. Until the lingering fragrance gradually faded, the emperor's mood became restless again, and his fierce aura seemed to be about to kill in the next second. He looked at the bloodstains on the mattress, scattered around, somewhat unsightly. I feel extremely regretful in my heart. He hit too hard. The stunning face of a beautiful woman was deeply portrayed in his heart, without the need for pen and ink to draw it down, it became a self-portrait in his memory. Each frame is unique and enticing, and cannot be erased. Your Majesty, I have summoned Lady Shufei over. She is outside. Eunuch Li hurriedly walked in and saw a mess and bloodstains inside the room. With a splash, he retreated. Even discerning people can guess what happened here. I don't know which lady is so lucky to be favored by her master. It's just that the poor Empress Dowager has been working hard for the sake of the imperial heir, and in the end, someone else took the lead and she will be punished again. The emperor put away the bloodstained mattress as if it were a treasure. After a while, he looked at the eunuch and coldly ordered, I have something to deal with, let her go. After speaking, he angrily waved his sleeve and called for water to change clothes. The young lady should be the daughter of a certain mansion, she looks a bit familiar. Check it out, it should not be possible to find out soon. He can't wait to see her anymore. Trapped the exiled fairy like little lady by his side forever. This is the first time he has developed such emotions towards women, he can't let go. Consort Shu had been carefully dressed for a long time, eagerly watching the people inside come out. What I heard was indeed like a bolt from the blue. Shu Fei's face suddenly stiffened and she said, "Do you mean that the emperor favored other women and seemed to like that woman very much? This is even more heartbreaking than the sky collapsing." The Shu Fei was originally dressed as a man, with a combination of facial features and makeup, creating a vivid image of a female general. She has been practicing martial arts since childhood, and her aura is even more fierce. Eunuch Li was so frightened that his legs trembled. Just after his death, he escaped and fell into the jaws of a tiger. "Madam, don't be discouraged. The emperor may have just been on a whim due to medication. Even if you spoil that master for a while, madam, your position in the emperor's heart cannot be compared to that of ordinary people for so long." Lady Shu seemed to be comforted and her face improved significantly. "Yes, it's just a blessing. It's okay, the emperor is not someone who is attracted by his looks. Otherwise, all the seduction of beautiful women before would not have been effective. It's impossible that this time I was hooked away from your heart." Just the jealousy in Lady Shu's eyes grew stronger and stronger. As far as she knew, this was also the first time the emperor had favored a woman. There were several eunuchs who didn't die after sleeping before, and they used some tricks to intentionally bleed on the bed. In fact, even the elderly in the palace can see that there is no one who has truly been touched by the emperor. This time, the woman relieved the emperor of her medicinal properties. She was afraid that the emperor would really not take action and even prescribe the strongest medicine. The more she thought, the angrier she became. Consort Shu gritted her teeth and instructed her confidant beside her. "Check. Quickly find out the background of that woman, I want everything. It's better to find out faster than the emperor's side, she's so manipulative." In the past few years in the harem, she, who was originally not good at palace fights, has also become ruthless and ruthless. As the daughter of a military general, she is ruthless and her methods are naturally more powerful than ordinary people. It's best to kill it directly in private, there are countless ways to die. If you want a stable position, you must be ruthless. Gu Nanyan took the hidden beauty pill and his appearance returned to its original state. After confirming that all the marks on her body were hidden, she returned to Shang Xian's side. Shang Xian was originally quite worried, but when she returned intact, she finally breathed a sigh of relief. She thought someone was taking advantage of her absence to bully her. "Yener, is your beloved really the emperor?" Remembering the shy sounds I heard in that room, as well as the bright yellow dragon robes scattered outside. Shang Xian and the Empress Dowager exchanged a glance at each other and left in tacit agreement. The Empress Dowager was very pleased and extremely happy. The bitterness in Ku Shangshin's heart overflowed with bubbles. It turns out that the emperor is not unfaithful to women, but rather a hidden beauty in a golden house, well protected and never let outsiders know. To dote on women who are pleasing to the heart to the extreme, and to exterminate all other women. People are quite focused, how good it would be if they were so focused on her cigarette. Shang Xian smiled bitterly. If her cigarette enters the palace, she will suffer even more. I have agreed with the Empress Dowager that soon the emperor will issue an order to directly arrange for you to enter the palace. If you regret it now, there will be no way to do so when the imperial decree is issued. Gu Nanyan remained firm and said, Mother, don't worry too much about me. I have a sense of propriety." Shang Xian let out a few more sighs. "If you feel wronged in the future, go seek the protection of the Empress Dowager. However, you must not take the initiative to cause trouble. Be calm and live a good life. As for men, just consider them dead. Yener, it's good for you to not worry about food and clothing alone. You're safe and happy. In the future, if your mother encounters any strange things, she will ask someone to send them to you. Gu Nanyan was listening attentively, obediently lowering her head. Upon hearing the middle sentence, I almost couldn't help but laugh. I feel like my mother knows something, or maybe she thinks the emperor is really unreliable. Anyway, it's just for her good. Her mother's heart was filled with warmth as she received it. Mother, you treat me so well. You are the best mother in the world. I won't let anyone bully you again. The latter sentence, Xiang Xian only treated it as a coaxing to her. But with a simple sentence from her daughter, she was also very happy. The two of them held hands, with curved eyebrows and eyes, chatting as they walked. Directly ignore Gu Yuan and let him walk alone with the servant girl. Gu Yuan didn't want to talk to these mother and daughter either. He only felt that this legitimate daughter had really changed her personality, and surprisingly had such a good relationship with her mother. You should know that before, Gu Nanyan had a very good relationship with Roer and Aunt Lu, who used to sing against her mother every day. Sister, mother. The banquet was over and it was time to go back to the mansion. Suddenly, Gu Zhiro called out to them from behind. Beside her was Su Siming, who frowned. Chapter 10. The Desperate Tyrant Without an Heir 10. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Gu Zhiro symbolically shouted a few words and then followed Gu Yuan, pretending to be a caring daughter and caring for him. Father, you may have been tired after drinking today. I have already asked someone to tell my mother that she has prepared a wake-up drink soup at home and has become more proficient in the massage techniques she has learned. Gu Yuan's whole body was alive, and the admiration on his face was undisguised. She is truly my good daughter, unlike your sister who only adds trouble to me. He gave Su Siming another satisfied look. Although this kid came to withdraw, it made both families look very unhappy. But fortunately, I regained face today. After retiring from marriage with Gu Nanyan, I also made an engagement with Roer. Or personally seek the imperial decree to grant marriage. The three of them were happy and harmonious, as if they were the same family. Xiang Xian couldn't help feeling sad and upset when she saw this scene. This is the man she disregards everything and entrusts for life. It's really chilling. Fortunately, with Gu Nanyan comforting her beside her, she didn't lose her composure in front of so many people. In front of the carriage, Gu Yuan smiled and waved his hand, preparing to be the first to go up. Gu Nanyan supported Xiang Xian's hand and collided directly with her. This action was too sudden. Just now, Gu Yuan, who was still feeling proud, forcefully fell to the ground and even flipped over. Gu Nanyan seemed to feel unwell. After helping Shangxin get into the car, she even kicked Gu Yuan's buttocks and used her strength to get in. Gu Nanyan. You rebellious girl. Gu Yuan's face was difficult to see the extreme, and he was helped up by the servant. Due to the pain in his buttocks, he stood with his legs slightly bent, and his movements were so comical that there was no such thing as a towering prime minister. Even that servant, who is used to being bullied on weekdays, turns his head and chuckles. Gu Nanyan looked regretful and remorseful, with a pitiful pout. I'm sorry, father. I saw that you have been reluctant to leave. I thought you were going to stay with your illegitimate daughter at the Prince Jing's mansion for 2 days. After all, your illegitimate sister went to the crown prince's house before she got married, and it's normal for you to worry about her as a father. I didn't see you getting on the carriage too. I accidentally bumped into you and hit you on the ground. I'm so damn it, so careless. The attitude of admitting mistakes seems very good, but why does it sound so uncomfortable? Gu Yuan furrowed his brows and said, apologizing is useless. Go back to the mansion and deal with it according to family rules. At this moment, when all the courtiers returned to the mansion, they were all watching. He was a prominent prime minister who still wanted face. Be dignified. Gu Nanyan sneered in her heart as she looked at Gu Yuan, who was walking like a bastard. He really looks like an old turtle. These 2 feet didn't kick him to the point where he couldn't get out of bed and could still walk. It seems that I have taken it lightly. Although I am a daughter, my strength should be very weak. I don't know what's going on, but with a gentle touch on my father, you fell to the ground. She blinked innocently, her appearance already following Shang Xian's, and her pitiful posture collapsed like a spring breeze, weak and uncontrollable. Those courtiers and family members also looked at Gu Yuan and then at this little girl. Meaningful, dare not whisper. Someone sneered, "Oh my God, even though the Prime Minister is almost 40 years old, is his body so poor?" He was easily bumped into by a little girl, and a big man thought he was knocked down by a carriage for some reason. Gu Nanyan looked into the crowd and it was Ning Ku who was speaking. I really treat her as a hypothetical ally. Gu Yuan also looked over and thought to himself, who wouldn't dare to speak ill of him? If he didn't teach her a lesson, where is his authority? After seeing who the speaker was, he lowered his face. Rather, there is a whole shogun's mansion behind me, and those two generals have always liked their daughter. She is the only one who has been pampered since childhood and speaks recklessly. Gu Yuanxiang swallowed this evil breath and thought that after returning to the mansion, he must teach Gu Nanyan, a rebellious woman, a good lesson. It's all because of her that he lost face. Upon witnessing this scene, Gu Zhiro felt mixed emotions and more afraid. Gu Nanyan, this little rascal, has become smarter and will definitely come to grab her brother Su. But upon reflection, she is the crown princess personally chosen by the emperor today, and even if Gu Nanyan comes in, she will only be a minor. Thinking this way, I suddenly feel very satisfied. It seemed that he was still feeling frustrated, and he was planning how to use his wife's identity to set a trap for Gu Nanyan. Brother Su, let's go quickly. It's too late for me to go home. My dad should punish me now. Su Siming looked at the departing carriage, a bit dazed. From beginning to end, he never received a glance from Gu Nanyan. You know, before, that woman wanted to keep her eyes glued to him for minutes. I can't say exactly what it feels like anyway, the taste is strange and uncomfortable. I always feel like something is slowly passing away. Did Brother Su miss his sister again? Look at my memory, I forgot to let Brother Su reminisce with her. After all, you are good friends who grew up together, and we should talk about each other after not seeing each other for so long. Moreover, sister likes you so much. On the day of her divorce, she begged her father and knelt down in the scorching sun for 2 hours, almost losing her life. How about liking it again? Su Siming doesn't really like Gu Nanyan, he's so obsessed with her. Gu Zhiro instinctively touched her stomach, feeling both comfortable and full of anticipation. After this reminder, Su Siming suddenly felt no longer uncomfortable. Yeah, Gu Nanyan didn't even want his life for him, how could he not like him anymore? Sure enough, he was once again indulging in the pursuit of capture. He doesn't eat this kind of thing. Roer is his favorite, he really likes it.